Welcome to Women's Leadership Today. I'm your host, Michelle Myers. Today, I'm excited to have on Nicole Greer to talk with us about change management and how women can step up and become agents of change within their organizations. Nicole is the principal coach and CEO of Build a Brivant Culture. She helps individuals, corporations, government, and nonprofits become the people they were created to be through fulfilling their mission and exemplifying vibrant leadership. Nicole, welcome.
Oh, I'm so glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Well, we're so excited. And before we jump in, can you tell us more about your journey and how you came to develop Vibrant Coaching?
Oh, it'd be my pleasure. When I was in high school, I had to make money to buy shoes. I don't know if any of the women listening can relate to this, but if I wanted a new outfit to wear to school or go out on Friday night, I had to work. My first job I ever got was in the restaurant business. And in the restaurant business, I always ended up being the trainer. They're like, let Nicole train the new server, let Nicole train the new host, right? So I was always kind of coaching people along and helping them figure out what to do. Not long after I was in the restaurant business, I got recruited and I went into the property management business. So I ran beautiful Class A apartment communities up and down the East Coast, and I again got put in a position to train and coach people. I think it's because I just have this kind of like, let's make things better, let's improve things, that entrepreneurial spirit, like let's make business happen. And so I did that for many, many years. And then I woke up one day after staying home with my children for 8 years. I had the privilege of staying home with my children. And I thought, I need to get a little job. I got both these kiddos on the bus. I need to get busy. And I went to a women's leadership conference. And at that leadership conference, I met a woman named Lori Beth Jones. And she's written many, many books. Just go Google her name and read any of her books. You will love them. But she was starting a new program where she was going to be developing coaches to go along with her book called The Path, which is my favorite book of hers. And so I said to her, after the conference was over, I waited to talk to her and I said, listen, if you need help getting your business going, I would love to help you. And so I want to emphasize this. I just asked, and she said, okay, let's do it. And so I've been a reseller of her products, and I've been using some of her coaching practice for a very long time now. And so that's how I got into Vibrant Coaching, started my own business.
Well, I love that journey. And just out of curiosity, how old were you when you started that first job?
I guess I don't know. I think I was 16. Like the second I could get behind a wheel of a car. Do y'all remember the day you got your driver's license? Oh, it was a big day in my life. Still one of the top days all these years later. But I mean, had that freedom and I needed gas to go in the car. And so I got into the restaurant business and, I've just been working ever since. I think working is great fun.
Well, and Nicole, we had you on today to talk about change and how women can be agents of change in their organization. And when we say change management, what does that mean?
Okay, so I'm going to give you my textbook answer to that because I wanted to make sure I was very clear. So, when we talk about change in an organization, we're definitely talking about improving the organization. So, I just want you to think about like one little tweak inside of an organization is change. So, improving in an organization, here's the key through people. You can't get any change done without changing the people. So that's important. And we alter the work that gets done. And here's what we impact. We'll either impact the vision, where the company's going, the mission, what we're doing, right? What the content, the purpose of what we're doing. We might impact process, systems, organizational structure, and then roles and responsibilities of people. So if you think about the breadth and the depth of that, I mean, business really is change.
What are some more examples of change that occur in organizations that need someone to step into this role? You mentioned, change on different levels. Can you give us some sort of high level and then maybe some more every day to day changes that need someone to step in?
Yeah, 100%. So, inside of a company, oftentimes the market we're in changes. And so we have to meet the demands of the market. Sometimes we have a technology that needs to be updated. I mean, people listening right now, you're probably thinking, oh, we just put new software in that department. We just put new software in this department. All right. So, technology is an absolutely huge change. Sometimes regulations change. Right. So we have insurance regulations, laws, things are getting passed in Washington, D.C. This causes us to change things. Hey, what about a pandemic? That'll change things. So those are all some very high level things that can make change. But then there could just be one new person that's been hired on the team, and that can change everything. So it can be as small, which really it's not small, but as intimate maybe as hiring a new person to the team, and it could be as large, as a pandemic that's hitting us, and we never had this before. So change is just everywhere, and like I love your question about the scope. It can
Hmm.
be small, it can be ginormous.
And why would you say becoming a leader of change management is important, particularly for women and their roles within organizations?
Yeah, I think that first of all, dare I say this, us ladies, we're good at change. Okay, so we're born for this. Okay, so so I mean, I don't know. Has anybody given birth that's on this listening to this? I mean, it's just kind of like, I mean, look, whoop, a baby. I mean, I just in my own life, I had this baby pop on the planet. Everything changed. I had to become a multitasker. I had to give my time and attention to somebody other than myself immediately, constantly, all day long. And so, women are just built for it, don't you think?
Yes. I wish it was that easy, Nicole. Just pop, and there they were. Oh my goodness.
Right. Well, and then we have to go through that 9 months. The first time you're pregnant, you're like, is this happening to me? I have
Oh
this
my
thing
gosh.
growing inside of me,
Talk
right?
about
So,
change.
oh yeah, and then hello, everything afterwards is changed. Hello. Um, I think change is inevitable. It's everywhere you turn, and really, if you think about the world we live in, the planet we live on. I mean, right now I'm in North Carolina, and it is springtime, and we are going through massive change right now. So it's the way of the world, and so you can't fight it. You got to get in alignment with it. So we just came out of the winter, and now it's like, oh my gosh, it's time to call the lawnmower guy. He's got to get out here because the grass is up to our knees. We've got to cut back the daffodils and get the annuals in place, and the perennials in place that we want for the summer. So we have to keep up with the seasons, and so there's always change going on. And I love this quote. I don't have it attributed to anybody. I just have it, and it says, change is inevitable, but growth is optional. And I think that's really the bottom line. Like, change is going to come, it just does. And so really what we want to choose, is this idea of, I am a lifelong learner and I'm going to grow. And so that's the mindset all of us ladies need to get into.
Well, I think you're right. I think as women, we're sort of hardwired for change, right? Life has
Mhm.
changed between our personal lives, our work lives. Every day brings us something new. But do you find women to be more, as resistant to change? I don't say resistant to change, but resistant to stepping up into that leadership role? Or do you find women are just as likely to take on that responsibility as their male counterparts?
Oh, what I'm seeing out there is that the ladies are quick to jump in, and the thing is, though, they're not jumping in like, da da da, let me be in charge of the change. It's more like, oh, this needs to change. Let me just do it. It's more of a kind of like a, it needs to be done, and it's right in front of me, and so let me change it. Let me get in there and start working with it. It's just more of a kind of a servant's heart, I think. And plenty of fellas are doing that too. Like, they're looking out, and then they're like, this has got to change. And so we move quickly into that space, because really, I think as women, oftentimes we're very much nurturers. Right. So if we see something in our environment and it is restricting our growth, restricting our forward movement, it's like, oh, I got to get in there and help. And so I think ladies are very quick to jump in and move forward. The women want to make stuff happen. It's just like, if you had, let's go back to the child thing. Like, my child brings home a report card, and he or she, because I had one of each, had a bad grade. I mean, first thing, we got to change something, right? So let's get in here. Let's get a plan. Let's go through some training, right? Or learn to do algebra or whatever it was, and take that person through the change process until they have that learning in their mind. And really, again, I want to emphasize when I was talking about what my definition was, let me say it one more time: improving an organization through people altering how work gets done. So, we can't get any algebra done unless we get the kid to do algebra. So it's working with the humans one on one. And I think women are nurturers and they're good at that.
Definitely. And let's talk about change at different levels. What does being a change agent look like when you're in the C suite versus when you're an emerging leader? You're new to your career or you're re entering the workforce after taking some time off.
So I think if you are a change management person in the C-suite, you've got to have a very, very good understanding of change and change models. So one of the change models that I absolutely adore, everybody write this down, is the change model by John Cotter. And John Cotter, one of the things that he talks about in all of his work, he's also on YouTube. He's a big fancy PhD from MIT, Massachusetts Institute for Technology. And in his model, he talks about declaring that there is a sense of urgency. And senior leaders have the privilege and the platform to say to the entire organization, this has got to change, and let me tell you why. And create a sense of urgency. And usually that urgency is around one of two things. We're going to have a problem if we don't change. Like they're going to eat our lunch. We're going to be Blockbuster, not Netflix if we don't, if we don't watch it. And then the second thing is, or there's a huge opportunity, like this opportunity just came. We got to seize the day, carpe diem. We got to get after it. And so we're going to have to change what we do in order to take advantage of this opportunity. So leaders have a wonderful, wonderful advantage because they can declare the sense of urgency. The other thing that they can do is that they can take the people, right? So it's improving organization through people. They can maneuver people around very easily, right? Like, I don't know, did you ever get the phone call? Hey, we've got this special project and we need you to help. And it's like, oh, I got picked for the special project, which means I got picked for the special change, right? And so, I can just pluck somebody out of this position and move them around if I'm in the C-suite, and really having the courage and the insight. And here's the most important thing, Michelle, is knowing what your people are capable of. Like that's the C-suite's responsibility. Who do I have in my organization who has the special skills, talent, unique ability to get this change cooking? And so I think sometimes the C-suite's a little bit the C-suite's asleep about who can do what, right? And so we really have to have that great relationship with people and a very good employee performance system in place so we know who can do what. So that's at the C-suite level.
And
Now,
oh, sorry,
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
I was just gonna say, and now somebody who's like an emerging leader and they're running like a small team, I would say that it is very much the same, right? In terms of I have to know who can do what on my team. I need to be able to communicate what the C-suite is asking me to do. But I'll tell you that the most important thing an emerging leader needs to learn, this is the number one lesson of change management at an emerging leader level, is you cannot throw the change under the bus. You have to be what my daddy would call a company woman, right? So at the senior level, they're not making up change just to make everybody's life difficult. And I think that is highly misunderstood. It's like, why are we doing this? Why are we changing this? There's all this kind of like talk going on. And and here's the thing, there is a business reason. I mean, we don't just make changes willy-nilly. We got to make revenue numbers, we got to make expense numbers, we got to have this thing called profit. So we need to, at an emerging leader level, to understand the business acumen of why the senior group is doing it. If you disagree with your senior group, have enough courage to ask powerful questions so you can understand why we need to change. And then get in there, and you need to be able, and here's a skill set. We're going to talk about skill sets, hopefully, but here's a skill set you need, which is sales. You need to be very good at sales. I got to persuade my team of 5 to give me the effort, and better yet, discretionary effort to get this thing done.
Well, that actually goes right into my next question, which was going to ask, what are the key characteristics or skill sets needed to be an effective leader of change?
Yeah, so there are so many, so many skill sets necessary for this. I get all excited about this because this is where like my favorite thing in the world pops up, which is training. Like, like people may not have these skill sets available to them right now, but with proper training they can. And so here's just a couple of the things that they need skills for. They need communication skills, which is a huge concept. um, we need to be able to do sales, which I just said. We have to be able to communicate verbally. You know how on every job description it says must have exemplary skills in written and oral communication. That is so true. You got to have that. And in that communication piece, two really important things for change: giving people feedback, knowing how to do that. There's actually a recipe for that. I could share that if you want. And then you have to hold people accountable for the change. And so I have a recipe for that too. So you got to do communication. You got to be a great coach, right? You need to be a strategic planner. Oftentimes the C suite says, this is what we're doing, implement. And now you got to go to work. And then I think time management. And then here's one that's really important: stress management, helping people with stress.
Yes, that's a big one, especially with change. Nothing brings out stress more than when we say we're going to be changing what we're doing. And what is your formula for giving feedback?
Okay, so I got this about 7 years ago, and when I got it, it was the best gift I have ever gotten. So, when I was coming up, Michelle, people would be like, "Nicole, you got to manage these people," and I just would shake my head and go, "Okay," but like nobody was really telling me how to do it. I was winging like the whole first part of my career, because nobody was training me, and so I mean, I did a decent job, but I'm sure I messed up left and right. So when somebody finally taught me how to give feedback, I was like, this is the best thing ever. So my feedback formula is called a C3. So everybody write down three C's going vertically. So the first C is circumstances. So if somebody's in a change situation, part of your change initiative, and you want to give them feedback, the first thing you're going to do is ground that feedback in the current circumstances. The next thing you're going to do is call out the conduct, that's the second C, that you see this person doing. And then the third C is the consequences of the conduct. So, there's that old thing about physics, every action has a responding reaction, right? I mean, it's just physics, it's just science. So if Michelle was on my team, I would, and she's doing a fantastic job, I would be like, Michelle, today in the meeting, you did an incredible PowerPoint deck, and you engaged everybody in the room. You solicited questions and you asked for people's input, and you made sure everybody had a next right step before we left the meeting. And consequently, I am so glad you're on my team. We're going to make this change happen. Now that is an excellent piece of feedback because she knows exactly where she was when I witnessed her doing this amazing thing, which was soliciting input, doing a great PowerPoint, getting ideas, making sure people had responsibility in the meeting. And then I tell her I'm so glad she's on the team. How hard is Michelle going to work for me now? She's gonna be like, "Oh, that Nicole, she's so smart. She sees how hard I work. I'm gonna work harder." I mean, that's how you get the change going. Is you give a lot of positive feedback. In fact, they say that you need to give people 7 pieces of positive feedback for every corrective piece of feedback.
I believe it because we tend to zero in on that one negative. I think when we're receiving feedback, don't we? So we need that to counter.
100%.
And Nicole, for women that have identified a need or are responding to a need for change and want to step up and be a leader of that process, what is the first step they should take?
Yeah. So when I was telling you how I got into this coaching thing in the first place, I said I went and I stayed after and I talked to Lori Beth Jones and I asked for an opportunity. And that's what you have to do. Here's what I know after all these years of working with leaders and doing consulting and coaching. um, Leaders are dying for help. In fact, they sit in their office and go, "Who's going to do this change?" And they're worried about people being upset and overwhelmed, and they're all worried. If you come sauntering into their office and you're like, listen, word on the street is you need help with this change. I'm your gal. I mean, I think they're going to be delighted. Now, when you go in there, I think it's a good idea to be prepared and have some ideas put together. So I have a coach. Every coach should have a coach, or dare I say this, they're like a hypocrite or something. Like everybody should have a coach. But anyway, so I have a coach. I can't call myself a coach unless I'm getting coached. So, my coach has this tool called an impact filter, and it is one of the best tools on the planet. And so it talks about, what is the project I want to suggest, or what is the project we're going to do? What is the best reason to do this project? What will happen if we don't do this project? What are the criteria? Like just brainstorming. What are the criteria? What are we going to have to do to get this thing done? What's the best result if we do this change? And what is the worst result if we do this change? So it's what my coach calls a thinking tool. And I love that stinking impact filter so much. I use it left and right all the time with my clients, helping them kind of see what will be the impact. And really, Michelle, that's all people want is they want the why. Why are we doing this? Oh, because it's going to make a huge impact. It's either going to save us or it's going to serve us. It's either we're going to save us because we're going to meet the market. We're not going to be left in the dust like a Blockbuster or a Circuit City. I don't know if any of you young people know what those are. But anyway, and
I know Circuit City.
I mean, remember that? Remember
I
Circuit
do. I
City?
sure do.
Okay. Everybody was at the Circuit City getting a VHS player. But anyway, um, or it's going to serve us and we're going to gain market share. And here's the bottom line about understanding the why behind things. People who join our organizations oftentimes don't have a business degree, even though we're running a business. So they've never been taught about market share or profit, revenue, profit and loss statements, things like that. And so we have to explain to them the way this place makes paychecks happen is that we're running in the black. And so I've had people come work to me, like when I was in the apartment business. I had many guys and gals come knock on my door that wanted to work at my apartment community, but they had like degrees in English, which there's nothing wrong with that, or a degree in whatever, but they'd never taken one business class in their whole life. And so when all these changes happen, it's like, gosh, we change a lot. You're right. We're keeping up with the market. We're keeping up with the times, keeping up with the competitors.
I like your impact model. I think that really gives people good framework when they're going in and saying, "Hey, we have this need, we need to change it," or "I want to be a part of that change," and going in and showing you understand the ramifications of why, what will happen if you don't change, or what will happen if you do change. But also importantly, it's a good framework, like you said, for explaining to people why. I think it's so easy for people to, like you were saying before, think, oh, they're implementing this change just to make change, right? But when we
Right.
understand the why behind it, it's like, okay, now I understand it. Now I can get on board. And that's really that challenge, isn't it? Is getting people past their resistance and their discomfort for change, which is not always an easy feat to do.
Right. I agree.
And Nicole,
Yeah.
at the top of the hour, we talked a little bit about, some of the larger changes we've been facing recently, COVID and all the things, right? All the things. What are some of the greatest changes facing organizations right now at this moment that need strong change agents to help lead them?
Yeah, I would say that one of the biggest things that's out there is employee engagement. So we sent everybody home. We've asked a lot of people to come back. Everything's messier than it's ever been before in terms of our employees and our associates. And I think that one of the changes is we have to change the way that we take care of our employees. We have to change the way we work with them physically, emotionally, dare I say this, spiritually. It's hard to motivate somebody if they're not in the room.
Yeah.
You're only on a Zoom once a week, right? So we really have to kind of reinvent employee engagement. So I think that's a huge change initiative. In fact, I'm mentoring a young gal right now who is part of the Society for Human Resource Management. I'm an old HR gal, and so I feel like you got to pay it forward, right?
Hmm.
So, so I'm mentoring this young lady, and we spent the whole last session we had together talking about employee engagement. She's working with a 100% remote team.
Oh, wow.
And so figuring out how to do all this when you're not in the same room is definitely a change. I think the other thing that's going on is developing people. I think more than ever, we do need these change management skills in place. And so I think, teaching time management, teaching project management. If a woman out there really wants to work in the change area that's listening, I would, oh my gosh, I would just absolutely implore you to go out and get a official project management certificate or degree or some
Mm.
kind of really great training. It will blow your mind. It's so good. Project management training is so fantastic. um, and then I think employee performance, again, motivating people that really aren't at work.
And Nicole, I was going to ask you as we wrap up today what your suggestions are for women wanting to take an active role in leading change in their organizations. But I think you sort of touched upon that earlier. Like you said, you need to go in and ask. I think it's too easy for us to sit back and think, if
Yes.
they need my help, they'll ask for it. But that doesn't always happen, does it? We need to sometimes step up and raise our hand and say, "I'm here. I'm ready. I'm ready to lead the charge on this." Would you agree?
I would totally agree. And I think in terms of taking an active role, again, back to where I started, you just said it, you have to ask.
Mhm.
But then if you want to be the person that's picked for this big change, I would say that one of the most important things you can do is work on the quality of your character. And so people are like, what? My character? There's nothing wrong with my character. But what I would say about that is that I have this list of 48 character traits that people can work on. I mean, Nicole Greer does not have them all figured out. I mean, hello. But like some of the things on there are like, are you approachable? Are you user friendly? Are you consistent? Do you build trust? Are you great with people? There's all these parts of your personality and your character that really help with change. I mean, we've all worked with somebody. It's just like they're difficult. You know
Absolutely.
what I'm talking
Oh, I
about,
do. I
people?
do.
So it's like that person's not getting the opportunity, but somebody who is, and I think the number one character trait is resilience.
Hmm.
You get knocked down, you make a mess, you clean it up, you try again.
That's something that we have talked about many times on our program. I call it I have what I call the two G's, grit and grace. You need grace when you get knocked down. You need to have grace for not only your coworkers but for yourself. So many times we deny ourselves the grace that we would allow other people when they fail. When they fail, and we need that grit to pick ourselves back up and keep going.
I love it. Grit and grace. It sounds very Southern. I love it.
Great, great. It does. You're right.
That's
It's
right.
different type
And
of
maybe I'm
grits.
just thinking about grits. I don't know. I'm from North Carolina. And grits are delicious. If you've never had any, come to the house. I'll make you some.
All right. Well, Nicole, well, thank you so much for joining us today and taking time out of your schedule. We certainly appreciate it. And we certainly had some fun today. Talked about change and a few other things in there as well. So,
Yes.
and I'd also like to thank everyone who listened in. We release 2 episodes a month. You can watch us on YouTube and catch us on your favorite podcast streaming service. Make sure to subscribe and follow along with us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. All right. Thank you again, Nicole.
Thank you for listening. Progressive Women's Leadership is passionate about providing the best tools to help you reach your fullest potential. Visit us today at progressivewomensleadership.com for access to workshops, articles, e-guides, and much more to help you further develop your skills and advance your career.